How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Nice to see you. See if I can get rid of the music. See where I put it on. There we go. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been good. How are yours?
It's been good. Nice. Any good news on your work that you're working on, your project?
The foreclosure?
Yeah.
No, I have to wait until the 20th of this month for the second conference. So she was able to weasel another 30. So the first conference was, I think, the 16th of January. I think it happened to be when we did the first meeting, and she was able to get another 30 days. So
Oh boy.
um I just have to wait until the 20th um, to see what happens. So that's when I had the talk with the attorney, and she was saying that there's a good chance that she might file for bankruptcy. So basically, she sent in another packet, but I knew that I wasn't going to approve it anyways. It showed, she had so many collections and
Mm.
all of that. And I knew that beforehand, but we have to do, I forgot what they said, but we have to let them do another loss mitigation package. So I had already done one. I had already denied it, but they want to make sure they do everything to make sure that the borrower had every chance to.
Yeah, you hate to go through the process twice.
Yeah,
So
I didn't. Well, it was that, and she did this the first time, but she sent in her packet and we received it after the 30 days. But she went and told the judge that it was sent, but we never received it. And it was just this game. And then that's why the
uh,
judge was able to give her another 30 days. And then I went to the servicer and I said, hey, can you double check that that you didn't receive it? Because she's telling the judge that she sent it, but we never received it. And so that's how she got the other 30 days.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, the service process is always, yeah, can
uh,
catch up
so
things.
it was the same thing. She sent it like the day before the deadline, but it didn't get to them until after the deadline. But because she told the judge that she sent it,
Yeah.
we
In the mail is the same as you've received it. Yeah. Crazy.
basically, and I was asking them, like, does it have to be postmarked by 30 days, or do we have to receive it by 30 days? But either way, since there was no proof that we did or didn't receive it, that's why the judge, or the mediator, not the judge,
Yeah.
granted her another 30 days to resend it. And I was like, she knows how to play this game. Like, she's just buying time.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry you having to go through that.
um yeah, so that's when I had the long talk with the attorney. So right now it's just a waiting game. But and I'm just taking this time to learn more about other stuff. But I do want to invest more. Learning a lot from this situation. Um,
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you joined me this week. This week we're gonna head into risk management and in the trust deed investing. And last week we covered how to analyze a promissory note, assessing the borrower's qualifications and the property value, understanding loan to value, and practical exercise we did on analyzing a sample investment. So the risk management's a big part of it. So you want to dive into that today?
Uh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, why not? What else? What else did we
No,
do?
it's great because actually this is kind of good timing because, like I mentioned in the last on our last meeting, that I had
Mhm.
taken a course for mortgage underwriting, residential mortgage underwriting, and I got the
Sure.
certificate for that. And I just never finished the commercial one because um, it's just some personal stuff. And then I was like overwhelmed. I wasn't that familiar with the commercial,
Yeah.
and it just kind of sparked me to finish the course. And I just realized I had a. It's been almost a year, so I have like I only have another couple weeks to finish it. So It's just
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
it's like the perfect timing.
Well, I'm
And
glad you caught that. That's good.
yeah, so
Hate to waste money.
I was debating if I wanted to do commercial. I do residential because that's what I did for Habitat, and it was very easy for me to
Yeah.
take the course and pass it. Commercial is a little bit newer, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into that. But our last conversation just kind of sparked it, and it reminded me of the course. And it was funny because I was just doing the module. 'Cause I have the deadline of like the next week. I was just doing a module, and they were talking about churches, and they said the same exact thing that you said about churches, and it was really funny. I was like, it was just so relatable.
Well, that's nice to have affirmation like that. I know in my life many times I've figured out stuff the hard way and
Yeah.
later taken a course and like, oh man, this is exactly what I did. I learned all this stuff the hard way. Here's the course. So a lot of times the courses are shorter.
Yeah, so
I've
this has
had
really
that
helped
happen.
me with that course, and unfortunately, it's an online module, and the lady that it sounds like AI to me, but like
Yeah.
after like it's hard to listen because it sounds like AI. It kind of sounds like Siri is talking.
Yeah,
Um,
some of those get tiring because there's no inflection in their voice.
no, and
There's
I was like,
no, emotion.
after a while, I was like, but I think this might be AI. This might be like Siri, like some type of an AI.
That's funny.
I didn't think about that at first, and I was thinking, wow, this lady can talk for a whole hour. And then I thought about AI and Siri, and this kind of sounds like Alexa or Siri. So
Yeah, that's
I've been
interesting that they're
trying
using that. It's
to.
fascinating. Fascinating part of time to be alive. It's a great time. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's dig in a little bit, and then we can ask. We can like we've been doing, take questions and ask stuff and kind of bounce through this material I've outlined for us. So um, essentially, what we want to do is risk management today. So we're going to talk about diversification strategies, mitigating default risks, how to handle the foreclosure scenarios, and then a couple of practical exercises on identifying and managing risks. So that's what we're going to cover today, and I think it should be fun. I think we should learn something. The both of us. Every time I learn something from you too, so it's very nice. So let's go into the diversification strategies and trust deeds. So one of the things that you can do for diversification, basically, you know what diversification is, right? You're going to spread it out over a larger area, so you're not all pumped up in one spot, and and then if something goes wrong in that particular market, like right now, it looks like we're going to run into a bull market in stocks, so there's going to be a drop in value there. And if everything's in stocks, you're going to take a hit. But if you're spread over a whole bunch of different things, like maybe some gold, maybe some crypto, maybe some trust deeds, maybe some stocks, maybe some bonds, you kind of balance that out so you're not all in one pot. Especially when you get older, it's going to be a lot really important because you don't want to have your cash flow issues are super big at the end of the party, so to speak. You know, I see so many people in my age bracket that just are struggling from one thing to the next because they didn't plan when they were young, or even if they didn't plan, they didn't do something about it, and now they're dependent on others. So it's kind of tough for them. So one of the things that you can do with the trust deeds is you can do different geographic locations. So I don't know about you, but for me, the way I research geographic locations is through the Census Bureau. Have you ever tried that? It's
No.
fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating if you're a numbers cruncher, statistician, researcher. It's great fun. So let's say your goal is you want to find in America where the cheapest house is to buy that brings you the most rent. You can do that through the census. It's pretty cool. So, and then as an investor, you'd go, well, gosh, that's a neighborhood, that's a metropolitan statistical area that I would want to invest in. So, you can kind of do that kind of fun stuff, and you can spread that around. There's lots of different markets that have that ratio out there, and you can pick those in different states and spread yourself around across the country. Uh, and some folks do international stuff as well. They'll look in other countries for other things that are available out there. So geographically, at least for me, the way I do it is through using the census, and you can study, you can look up and find out, okay, what's the median sales price in relationship to rents, and show me the top markets for that, where I'm going to earn the most rent. So as an investor, you're going to have a lower, maybe sales price, but a lower overhead and a higher return. Your rate of your return on your investment is going to be bigger. So if you end up having to take a property back in one of those communities, you might keep it as a rental as opposed to, cashing out and moving forward, because the sales price is going to be the lowest possible. Now, if you're going the other direction, you can also use that same information and go, okay, where are the houses appreciating the fastest? So you can look for those kind of neighborhoods too, so that, let's say you invest at 65% loan to value, but the annual increase is 14%, which is way above the national average in this particular MSA. That would be a place where you're going to get some extra security. You're going to defer some risk that way. Can't 100% count on it, but if the trend is going that way, and you can look at the market, you can look at what kind of businesses are there. Do they have hospital business? Do they have government business? Do they have private industry? What are these industries? How are people hired in these areas? What's going on? You can diversify in all those, kind of, and you learn that if the market has a complete diversification of jobs and people are moving there, and the values are going up, it's a better place to, drop your money in for that kind of thing. To give yourself a better chance and lower your risks. So that's kind of it. Do you have any questions about geographic type stuff? I mean, that's kind of a real high overview of it. Does anything come to mind? Have you tried any of those
No, I
strategies
just pulled
using?
up the Census Bureau. I've never actually went on this site, so.
Yeah, it's really a great source for digging out information on the different multiple metropolitan statistical areas. And then you can kind of research that. Some people use things like the property radar or PropStream or all that to kind of do the same thing. But I like the numbers from the census. I feel more comfortable with those numbers. So
PropStream, is that the same as PropWire? Is that like similar?
I haven't heard of PropWire. I don't know. I haven't heard of that one before. I'll make a note here and look it up.
What is PropStream?
PropStream is it's a list of properties, values, owners. It's for wholesalers. There's like Property Radar does a kind of a similar product. X Leads is another company that does a similar product. All these guys package and resell real estate data.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing because I use PropWire, but I never knew if it was really. I think it's a free version of PropStream, but I knew if the information was accurate. I know the owner information is accurate, but when it says, it'll say like what the value of the property is, like whether or not, like how much equity, the mortgage. I don't know. That doesn't seem like it would be accurate.
That's run on an algorithm for most of those. So it's not a full on appraisal. It doesn't, it's not a good way of doing it. There's so many variables in an appraisal that I haven't seen a good algorithm yet. The one that's coming the closest so far is what is that one out of China that just dropped? The AI, something speed, DeepSeek.
I keep hearing about that, and I don't.
And they seem to be the best at producing a value right now. So it's very interesting.
The news, but I thought it was some political thing. 'Cause I
Well,
think
there's always political shenanigans going on when,
you can't
they
escape the
basically,
politics now.
yeah, what I'm understanding, I don't have firsthand knowledge, but what I'm understanding is DeepSeek used ChatGPT to propagate or fill their large language model. And so it only cost them $6 million to set it up, where the other guys spent hundreds of millions to set theirs up. And so they put it on the market. And then the other thing that they did was they used smaller chips to run it through, so it cost less money to operate, so that they could sell the large language model to businesses who do the research and charge them less per million bits. So one was the Chat GPT is like 17, 18 cents per million bits, and DeepSeek is 3 cents per million bits. So the price difference is what everybody screamed about, is why the NVIDIA took a hit, all that kind of stuff. So it's just interesting, all these different tools that are out there. They seem to be coming up with the best pricing models so far, as long as it's in, an MSA area, in town, not out in the country. Country stuff is much harder, rural properties, much harder to get the right values on it. So there can be so much variation. It's kind of like a neighborhood where not everything is consistent. The house next to the house next to the house are all built the same. Those are easy to find the value of. In the country, it's, this guy's 5 acres, this guy's 32 acres, this guy's 12 acres, this guy's 1 acre, and then they all built the barn themselves or all built the house themselves. So the quality of craftsmanship is questionable. It's just really much harder in the rural settings to figure out the values. So the next section, you have any more questions about that? Okay, so let's go on to borrower profiles. So it sounds like you've been working on credit, understanding credit and what the credit reports say. Have you familiarized yourself with the accounting part of it, where you can do the P&Ls, profit and loss, you can do the balance sheets, you can read?
That's actually just the module I just did yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like it's not overwhelming, but the AI lady that's talking, I can't
Oh, sure,
I
sure.
just try to start like falling asleep. But yeah, that was actually the model. They was talking about financial statements, the balance sheets, looking at their liabilities. So that one was a little bit more detailed. I would like to know more about it, but that was actually the module that I just did yesterday.
Well, let me give you a pro tip on that one. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have figured this all out. Are you familiar with those two companies?
Mm-hmm.
So they figured it all out. So you can ask Fannie Mae, how underwriting guidelines on self-employeds, underwriting guidelines on LLCs, underwriting guidelines on corporations. And it'll actually give you a check sheet you can go through, and it'll show you all the detail that you have to look for in their underwriting criteria. But that'll teach you how to find out on your own for your own investments. You'll understand what these documents are that people hand to you. I was the ripe old age of 28 when a lady came into my office, and she plopped down a P&L and a balance sheet in front of me and handed me a loan application. And I took it and I looked at it and I asked her to explain it to me. And she pretty much patted me on the head, you know, little boy, you don't understand these things. And it was like really condescending, right? But I was professional about it. And I'm like, well, can you help me understand, what it is? Oh, that's just what it is. Just turn it in. And I said, well, I'm looking at your balance sheet here and I'm looking at your P&L. Can you explain this line? And there were a few lines that were abnormal that you wouldn't find on a normal balance sheet or a profit and loss. Can you explain these lines to me and tell me what they mean? Oh, just don't worry about it. Just turn it in, she says. I said, ma'am, I said, I have studied FASB for a long time. I know I'm only 28, but I said, FASB, this just doesn't make sense to me. And she looks at me and goes, FASB? asking me in a questioning tone, like FASB, what is that? It's a Federal Accounting Standards Board. We still have that today, Amanda. We have a set of rules of how we account. And so you can go to that and get the structure of how these sheets are supposed to look. So she grabbed those papers and ran. She was committing fraud. She ran out the door because she had been caught. So, it's really interesting to, learn the paperwork, get an idea of what's in front of you. At that particular point, I owned that particular company. So it was really fascinating to be, tapped on the head a little bit and somebody playing me for trying to, because I was at 28. I mean, I hardly had any peach fuzz on my face still, So, so it was kind of interesting to have people do that. And I've never forgotten that lady and her attempt at trying to, make those records incorrect and pass them off. They were fraudulent for sure. So once you get the hang of those, you can look, like I said, at the Federal Accounting Standards Board. You can also look at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and look at their underwriting criteria and see what they want for corporations, LLCs, those kinds of things. Bring yourself up to speed on those kinds of underwriting. And for me, it's just a good thing to refresh once in a while, go through them again, and I forgot about that, or everything doesn't stick. You know how it is. You have to do things over and over. So that would be a good thing. And for me, for the borrower profiles, we were talking about diversification. So now those are the different kinds of things that I would look at. I'd look at private individuals. I'd look at builders. I'd look at corporations. I'd look at LLCs. I'd look at partnerships. A lot of the law firms have LLPs, limited liability partnerships. There's a lot of different kinds of things going on that are varying kinds of lenders. You can also, borrowers. You can also do different economic strata type. You spread your, look, I only want to make deals with this, elevation of economic folks. So we were talking about commercial before. That's generally going to be a different economic strata than somebody who's doing a house. So you can spread between all those different kinds of borrowers and kind of limit your diversification. And then the other thing that we talked about, which ties to geographic, is how about, you look at, okay, I'm going to do a doctor and I'm going to do a contractor, kind of spread between the different kinds of jobs so that, let's say, you're not really going to have a downturn in a doctor market, but you might have a downturn in real estate. You might have a downturn in grocer, a person who's in the grocery business. There's different kinds of things. So when you look at the borrowers, make sure that you're not all stacked in contractors or all stacked in, one type of business as the people that are in your portfolio. Try and spread it around on more so that if the market does change on you, you've got some cushion there to take care of yourself. And the last one, and we've kind of touched on it briefly, is the property types, the residential, the commercial, and land. Residential has a category, it's 1 to 4 units is considered residential. 5 units and above is considered commercial, except in the case of a small business, like maybe a car wash or something like that can be 1 unit. It doesn't have to be multiple, but it's commercial usage. And that's going to be signified by the zoning types. So zoning is going to have your commercial usage on it and what can be done on it. And then the final one is land. So each one of those, when you diversify in those, make sure that those all have different LTV amounts. The loan to value changes. For land, I absolutely do not like to go 50%, above 50% loan to value on land. Half of the money in by the borrower and half of the money I'll put up. So 50-50. That protects you, and if you're going to do a land piece. And then, of course, let's say you have, a doctor who's bought land over and over and over flipped it into, built a house, and you're fine with that person. But I still stay at 50-50. Commercial property, I usually stick at 65% loan to value under $1 million. Over $1 million, I start dropping my loan to value. I want to be a little bit safer on those bigger ones. The reason why, longer time to sell. So I want to take something over $1 million. That's a commercial. I'm going to drop down to 60 or 55 or even 50 at $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, because I'm going to hang on to that property for a while and have to cover interest a lot longer than I would on a residential property.
Is an apartment building considered residential or commercial? It's commercial because it's more than 4 units?
Yeah, it's commercial if it's over 5 units. Up to 4 units, it's residential. So the 5-unit routine is, and above, we talked about it a little bit before. There's the mom and pop commercial where they have to operate it themselves because there's not enough money coming in to hire professional management and oversight. And then we talked about the full-on commercial stuff. So all the properties fall into that category of, there's mom and pop commercial stuff all over the place. I know in Sacramento, like there's guys that own, 6 or 10 garage units where they have a garage where people can bring in cars and work on it in a little office. And so it's a mixed, it's a usage where the person rents the stalls. There's a whole bunch of those, and that's a mom and pop operation. It's not really big enough for a corp. Excuse me for just a second. The dog's whining. He just can't stand it. He'll be back in here in a minute, standing at the door. Let me in, let me in. Today has been an in and out day for him. It's been raining a lot here. We've had, out of the last 8 or 9 days, we've had 8 days of rain.
Wow.
So we had one
Actually
day
raining
off.
today. It feels really, I love it when it rains because we don't get rain at
Oh,
all. So
we've
this
gotten,
week's been good, and no more fires down here because of the rain. So that's good.
yeah, I hope there's no more fire town. That's ridiculous. That's a whole nother story, isn't it? So if you mix between those different kinds of properties, apartments tend to sell faster than other commercial properties, but it depends on what capitalization rate you're trying to sell at and what's going on in the market. But those seem to be a more sought after type of property. Sometimes, like here in California, they've been crazy. They've been wanting a 2 to 3% cap rate, which is a 2 to 3% return on investment, as for dump apartment complexes. Just not really nice. And then when you go to the A class ones that are brand new, you're not going to have to fix anything for 5 to 10 years because it's just a brand new building. They're running out at a 2 and 3 cap, and so the comparison, and people were buying them up left and right. And I think it was foreign buyers coming in and buying up these low yield deals, and of course people were making bank on them. And then when the interest rates went up, of course the people who bought that lost money, because as the interest rates go up, the value of commercial goes down. You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah, interest rates go up, commercial goes down. Is that what you said?
The value goes down because the value is based on how much money the property will produce. So if the cost of the mortgage is higher, then it costs you more in payments, which produces a lower income on the property. The lower income becomes a lower value. So the more money a property produces, the more it's worth. So interest going up charges more fees and lowers profits. Lower profit equals lower value. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.